The Buffs live and die by the offensive line this season. They are going to win 6 games if this offensive line sucks. Probably 7. They're going to win 10 plus games if this offensive line is good. That is the bottom line.
Welcome to the Folsom Frenzy podcast. My name's Chase, and I've got Jake, Sreyes, and Topher here today. Sam may have died. We literally have not heard from him for a while, so rest in peace to Sam. Sam, if you're out there watching us, please text us. Let us know that you're doing well. This episode today, we're going to do our North Dakota State preview. This episode, like all the episodes this season, are brought to you by Q Wealth Management. Go to qwealthmanagement.com to learn more. But yeah, we're going to break down North Dakota State, the upcoming game. Very excited to be back. Released our last episode to a lot of hate from the haters are everywhere. Texas Tech, turns out there's more than 15 people who live in Lubbock, and they've been all in our mentions to let us know. Nebraska fans are crying per usual. It would not be our podcast if we did
Doing
not.
more than crying.
Oh
Not
my
being
God.
classy.
Oh my God. Probably 50 notifications from just Nebraska fans crying, weeping, like they will be after we beat them again in Memorial Stadium. But today we're going to talk position groups, best position groups, worst position groups. We're each going to predict a breakout surprise player of this season. And then we'll look at North Dakota State. We've done a little bit of research. Topher's going to give us some of the X's and O's that he kind of expects. And finally, we'll talk about, what does a successful season look like? So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. Who wants to kick it off with best position group? Only get to say it first. I think the rule should be that you can't be repetitive. So great. I'll go first. I think the best position group, it's going to be the wide receiver room. This wide receiver room is absolutely stacked. It was stacked last year. Lost, I'd say we lost a good amount of talent, but Will Shepherd coming in, even in that open practice, some of the highlights from that, from the spring practice, he's going to be a stud. He was a stud at Vanderbilt. If you can find a way to be a stud at Vanderbilt in that SEC, you're going to be a stud here at Colorado with the weapons we have. Travis coming back. I think that's clear and away our best position group. I think that's probably the position group that is going to have the best chance of getting drafted. Obviously it benefits from having, and I've said this before, I'll keep saying it, best player in college football, Travis Hunter. So at least in my opinion, that's where the strength of this team is going to be. And we talk about, and we've gotten a lot of flack for this on YouTube, by the way, but we talk about, this team doesn't necessarily have the depth that other programs have. And I just want to clarify, this team has a lot more depth, in my opinion, than it did last season. I still think compared to some other programs that have been recruiting for years and years, it doesn't quite have the same depth. No question we have the depth at wide receiver. Our wide receiver room, top to bottom, is absolutely nails. It's going to be awesome. And you guys are welcome to disagree with me, but I tend to doubt that you're going to.
Yeah, I disagree with you. My hot take, I think the running backs will be the most impressive room this season.
You're gonna have to defend that one. All right, let's hear it.
Okay.
So I don't know if you saw.
We're winning a lot of games.
I don't know if you saw the clips from the open practice, but it was very clear that our run game is drastically different from last year, and we had multiple running backs making big plays, including but not limited to our true freshmen. Right. So what I see is a running back room that's deeper, that is more effective, and paired with the weapons of wide receiver, you cannot load the box against us. They cannot afford to. And with that, and that talent acquisition, I really think the running back room is going to be able to chunk off, and there will be games where we're ripping off 7 to 8 yards per run the whole game.
Let me challenge you though, Topher. Some of the complaints from last year was that we weren't running the ball enough, not committing to it. Seems like Coach Prime wants to air it out, run more of an air raid offense. Is that something that you think is going to change this year? With the move at
Can I
OC?
jump in really quick? I don't think that's a Coach Prime thing. If you watch Jackson State tape, they ran the football.
They ran
football. That was
football.
just a last year thing.
I think we didn't have the O-line girth, to really be able to move boys around, and that makes it tough to find running lanes no matter how talented our running backs are.
We didn't have the O-line anything. It was
it
was a disaster.
Tissue
Last in
paper
the
up
league in
there.
sacks. Yeah, imagine how bad a position group has to be if you're like basically dead last in rushing yards and dead last in sacks given up. That's insane.
I only remember from 2022 season, I think we led the Pac-12 in one O-line stat, and that was false starts per game. So, I just always think our line is going to be terrible. And I hope that they can move people a little bit more so that, I'm proven right that the running back room will be the most impressive this season.
Yeah, it is sad because they did have some talented running backs last year that just absolutely did not get to show any sort of talent at all. And it was sad because like Cavassier Smoke, I feel bad for him because he was probably hoping this would be a springboard season to being a pro, but it just didn't happen. And we all saw why. Like the yards per possession was abysmal last year in general when you factor in the sacks and then also the lost yards on rushes. So that's a very interesting take, Topher. I would love to see that myself. It's hard for me to disagree with Chase. That was the first thought. I'm looking at best position groups, like wide receiver depth is fantastic. I mean, so the guys we lost Xavier Weaver. It seems like he's making some noise in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals right now, so that's pretty cool. And then I think we lost Tavares Dawson. I don't remember where he went, but he kind of made a name for himself early in the season. I believe he had a rushing touchdown actually against, I want to say it's Nebraska, on an end around, and he was showing some pretty good speed and making some plays, but he's not with the program at this point. But man, the guys like the 5-star transfer from TCU, Cordell Russell, he's a guy that's been standing out in some reports. Will Shepherd, obviously, he's looking to make a name for himself so he can raise his draft stock after being in the SEC. We already got Travis, already got Jimmy. That's a pretty impressive position group. And then I didn't even mention Omarion Miller, who had the breakout game against USC last year and showed that he can really do some damage if he's given the opportunity. And there's guys who haven't even named, that are part of this pretty exciting receiving core. And man, just lock for Shedeur, right? Protect him, give him a chance. I think these wide receivers they're gonna get themselves open. Shedeur can make throws. We saw him make throws. Everyone who seems to now have this weird opinion that Shedeur was a creation of the media or something like that. My goodness, like, no, we've seen bad quarterbacking here. That was not bad quarterbacking. That was maybe one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in Boulder that had absolutely no protection whatsoever. And we keep bringing this up. Best team in the country down 3 scores. So as soon as the team started putting pressure on, stopped putting pressure on Shedeur, and he had even this much time to make a play happen, he was really, really hard to stop. So I'm excited to see that combination this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna pile on and also agree with you guys. Then I'll give another position group just to make it fun. But definitely the wide receiver group is 100% the best group, and none of us mentioned the best wide receiver on the team. LeJontay Wester is arguably the best receiver on this team.
I knew I was forgetting someone.
Yeah,
I even saw him.
I almost interjected, but like, oh wait.
I even saw him make plays in the spring game. He looks so good. He looks like he has a lot of chemistry, Shedeur. I can't believe I forgot about him.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Here's the deal, right? Your number 2 wide receiver last year, Jimmy Horn, he's not even going to be in the top 3 guys. He might not even be out there if you have a 3 wide receiver set. You have 2 guys and a slot receiver. Jimmy Horn's not going to be out there. He might be in the slot. Who knows? But you're going to have Travis Hunter on one end, Will Shepherd on the other, and then LeJontay Wester probably in the slot. Maybe Travis Hunter a little bit in the slot. Who knows? But when Jimmy Horn is your fourth best wide receiver, that's saying a lot because Jimmy Horn's a really good player. And this isn't bashing Jimmy Horn. He's a phenomenal athlete. And then also the young guys, right? Cam Michael is a stud. Super fast player. Draylon Miller, also a stud. You mentioned some of the other guys, Sreyes, so I'm not going to beat it. But yeah, wide receiver group is just phenomenal. But the group, I might cheat. Can I cheat, guys? I want to say 2 groups. I'm going to cheat. I'm very excited for our DBs and our defensive line. I'm cheating and I'm saying 2 groups. I was going to say the whole defense, but I'm going to narrow it down to
that.
That would definitely be cheating. But let me just unpack this really quick. I think our DBs, we have 2 lockdown cornerbacks that aren't named Travis Hunter. So you have Travis Hunter, who is our best DB in the field. And then Preston Hodge, there has just been great things coming out of camp. People think he's an NFL guy, lockdown guy. He straps receivers, and that's an inside joke for the Bucs fans. And then DJ McKinney is also a stud. there on the end. Super talented cornerback. Just have heard a lot of excitement about our DB group. And then also the defensive line. During the practice they had in Denver, you heard Tajay. Why am I blanking on his last name?
Tajay McCoy.
Thank you. Tajay McCoy getting 4 sacks. Is that on the offensive line, or is that Tajay McCoy being a beast? Who knows? We'll kind of get to the worst position group here in a second.
I'm gonna be optimistic.
But Tajay McCoy might not even be a starter, right? Your projected starters are potentially BJ Green, Chidozie Nwankwo, Dayon Hayes, and maybe Torian Carter. And then you have Tajay McCoy back there too. Plus you have the LSU kid. I'm blanking on his name as well. I just need to have the roster up. This is just embarrassing.
We also got Okunlola. We got some really quality.
Yeah, Sammy Sachs. BJ Green's gonna be a beast. He's gonna be first team Big 12, and he's just gonna be great to have on the end. So I'm very excited for this defense, and I think you've seen some buzz over the summer about this defense.
Yeah,
I hope so.
And now that we've been optimistic, maybe we should have done this in the reverse order, actually, because now we're gonna, we'll switch to the worst position group. I'm gonna take one. I'll go first again because it's clearly self-serving, but I don't know if any of you guys would have picked this group. I am really concerned about our tight end room because I don't think we have a pass catching tight end really at all. Mikey Harrison transferred to, I think it was San Diego State. I think he followed his OC. And he was a decent, there were some games where I was like, oh my God, we have a tight end that can catch the ball. And then he kind of, I don't know, like I looked at his stats and it's really not as high as in my head, I remembered him being like a much bigger impact player than I guess he was statistically, at least. Did he catch the ball when it mattered? Absolutely. But, I don't, just looking at this roster, even when you got like, Smalls transferring over just to be a run. It looks like they're mostly going to be a run blocking tight end group. Now, the interesting one in here is Sam Hart, who from Colorado, betrayed Colorado, went to Ohio State, but giving him some credit for returning. I remember when we lost that recruiting battle and it kind of hurt, right? We were losing every kid out of Colorado that was decent, and I'll never get over the Christian McCaffrey betrayal or the McCaffrey family in total betraying the state of Colorado completely. And you can use that for our opening clip if you want, Topher.
I'm very anti-Ed
McCaffrey. Disgusting.
Yeah,
Grew up in our
hometown. USC guy, of course.
Screw
decides
that
not
guy.
to go to Douglas County High School and then proceeds to go, disgust. And none of them stayed in state. So anyway, I'm over it. It's whatever. It's water under the bridge. But seeing
technically Dylan McCaffrey did play for Northern Colorado.
Yeah, okay.
How did that go?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about
Asterisk. But that's just a room where I don't see like a clear wide receiver threat. And I do wish that was something that, I wish there was a better answer or at least maybe a more clear answer. And I'm happy to be wrong, and you guys could tell me in the comments if I'm wrong and I'm just missing it, but I just don't see like a big impact tight end. And I think that's going to be important in the Big 12. And I think that's particularly important if, the O-line is not as improved as we are hoping it is. And, Shedeur doesn't have that kind of check down tight end that is really, kind of a safety blanket that a lot of teams really benefit from. And I don't see it on our roster. Maybe that's not our thesis at Colorado. It doesn't seem to be, but I do wish that room was a little bit more exciting. Although I do think they will be better as far as run blocking is concerned.
To play devil's advocate, I think part of our issue with the run game last year is when you have Mikey Harrison in, you're throwing the football. So we did not have a tight end last year that's going to help you with that run
any
game.
sort of blocking.
Yeah, and I think Sam Hart and Savell Smalls is that. I also think you're kind of underestimating them and their catching ability. I think Sam Hart will be a solid receiver for Shedeur, but only time will tell. I don't think that's a bad take though, Chase.
Yeah, for me, my biggest concern right now is with special teams, especially because of the reports about Trevor Riley being not part of the program anymore.
We're about to lose our rating because of Topher's.
Hey, he's the one editing this, so I am very concerned. Like, it's not clear whether he left of his own accord or whether he was let go or something like that. I like Vassett. Vassett turned it on towards the end of the season. He had some crazy coffin corner kicks. So I love that, but I don't know that I love any of our kickers that much. Like Mata does not have a huge leg. He was pretty accurate for the most part. He did miss that huge kick against Arizona that really stung us and prevented us from winning that game. But I'm very concerned about the fact that position coach is gone at such a crucial time, and we've seen all of these failings in that position group. Like even from the spring game last year, we saw multiple kicks get blocked and just all sorts of chaos. And that would be such a terrible thing if that's what derails a very good season, is if we're missing field goals, if the other teams don't take us seriously, and maybe they're expecting us to go to fourth down all the time because we don't have a proficient kicking game. And I don't know. I am kind of worried about that. So we'll see how it turns out though.
Topher, tell me I'm crazy, but Mata was hitting 50-yard field goals at the practice. I'm trying to convince myself to believe
he looks a lot
smoother.
smoother. He looks a lot smoother, and he's not crunching anymore, right? So the two things that we were concerned about is he has a bigger leg. He's clearly worked on it, and he's not crunching for power, which means he's getting much better height. So both those things, I like that, and it seems like Mata is still the guy to beat for that position, which is surprising. Feely is bigger, and he can get his swing a little bit faster. I know he has more range, but I guess Mata is more consistent. I know that I DM'd Chase the field goal operation, and it was borderline risky DM, but it looked very smooth in that clip. Now, can that translate to a game? Who knows? And when it comes down to it, when it's a good team against a good team, the deciding factor is special teams. Can you be efficient on punt and coverage? Can you make the field goal when it matters? And that means a good snap, a good hold, and a good kick. Change of personnel, change of coaching there. There's a lot of red flags for me too there, Sreyes. So that's also the position that I have the biggest worry about right now.
And just to add on it, one more thing here is another thing is touchbacks. CU, I think, what was the stat? Got like 30% touchbacks last year.
At altitude? Are you kidding me?
At altitude, yes.
Colorado.
So bad.
That was also a big thing with the open practice. A lot of people weren't seeing long kicks.
That's unacceptable.
There's been some rumors swirling that Alexander Stojanovic, I don't know if I pronounced his last name right, might be doing the kickoffs. So we'll see. We need someone to have that leg. I don't think it's Mata.
It's definitely not Mata.
Not on
Stojanovic. Yeah. So I think that's a big problem as well. So I like that call out, Sreyes.
If we don't get touchbacks this season, I will actually lose my mind. Because again, I play in a semi-professional league, and I personally know a kicker that can get a touchback every time he kicks off. It's not hard to find at altitude.
Coach Prime ain't hard to find. Give him his number.
He went to walk-on day. He went to walk-on day, and they didn't call him back.
Someone's stubborn about it.
Oh my God.
And I think just generally, like the University of Colorado should never, ever, ever, ever struggle to find punters and kickers, because that is a clear advantage for improving your draft stock. Mason Crosby did it. I don't want to hear, like, you either play at Utah, you play at Wyoming, you play at Colorado. Like, that is a cheat code to juicing your stats.
And Titans punter is from CSU, right? Like, you come play in Colorado.
And so like that should be a recruiting advantage. And the fact that we ever struggle it's just crazy to me. Like, you would think that would be our ace in the back pocket all the time. But
it's a bit of a sidebar, but it's also not like there's a lack of talent in state too, because both the Carlson brothers are from Colorado Springs. J.K. Scott, who's one of the best punters that college football has ever seen, went to Mullen, right? He's from literally down the street. And we can't keep these guys here. Like, it's just ridiculous. I can't believe we can't. Utah, it's like, on the other hand, you have a program like Utah that always
let's not talk about their kicker.
Oh God,
Judas.
We had a good kicker, and then he transferred.
Yeah, so for the listener, Cole Becker was the buff and transferred as part of the mass exodus with Coach Prime. I honestly think that was our biggest loss.
It was definitely our biggest loss.
We actually called that out too. We called that shit out.
If you were afraid to play with Coach Prime, good, get out. But man, that one did kind of hurt, because it shouldn't be hard to replace. don't let the door hit you on the way out, but also like, God, man, that hurts.
No.
Dude, I play Utah in college football 25, and like I'm in my third year of my dynasty, and Cole Becker's just out there hitting 60-yarders as a senior, and I'm like, oh gosh.
And
Dude,
before
he's
the
good.
haters come out, we love Mata. He's a great kid. If you've watched the Prime on
Yeah.
Prime series, he is a phenomenal kid. Like, I am cheering for him. I want him to succeed, but there is just some legit concerns as far as distance. I think he struggled a little bit at the end of last year, but when he's hot, he's hot. I want him to succeed. It sounds like, there's room to be optimistic. It's surprising to me that we can't find people with the leg on kickoff or on field goals, but kickoffs is unacceptable. And punting, I get it. Mark Vassett was better last year. Mark Vassett is not what we need him to be. Like, we need better distance on our punts. It really matters. Like, the difference between getting 35 and 40 yards versus 60 yards on a punt is the difference between legitimately probably like 2 wins in a season at least, right? Like, getting that distance, and it's the difference between a field goal versus a touchdown. It's the difference as far as, where you get the ball. It's the difference on managing possessions. And that is like something that has to be improved. I'll believe it when I see it. I get that he kind of improved on the back end, but he's got to be better. And I think he can be better. And I'm hopeful that, he put in the work in the offseason, and I'm optimistic, but that is going to be an area that we can really cost ourselves some games.
Yeah, one thing that came to mind just now is Mark Vassett. I think I mentioned the coffin corners, that Arizona game. I think he had multiple coffin corners in that game, and Arizona immediately just ran the ball down her throat for touchdown. So hopefully the defensive line isn't paired with bad special teams. Because last year we got the combination of both, and that's just a backbreaker when you make the other team go 99 yards and they just rush the ball down your throat and they get it done.
Yeah.
I'll just give a special mention. Please, offensive line, just don't let us down again. I know
that
they
was
look
going to
a
be
lot
my
better.
position group, Sreyes. Like, we
I-
got to talk about that's going to be the worst group. I'm sorry. Like, that is the group. This is the clip. The Buffs live and die by the offensive line this season. They are going to win 6 games if this offensive line sucks, probably 7. They're going to win 10 plus games if this offensive line is good. That is the bottom line. All that matters this year is the offensive line. And
It's
yes,
usually what it comes down to.
exactly, right? You got Iowa, who have a great offensive line. Nebraska historically has had great offensive lines back in the
How dare you.
90s. Like, I know, sorry.
How dare you?
But even when the Buffs were good, right? They had solid offensive linemen.
Yeah.
I guess in the 2000s, right? They had 2 NFL draftees and they still sucked in offensive line. I think
That is a
you bring that up
hilarious
first,
fact.
right?
That is a hilarious fact because in 2012, when they were
Slight
dead
tangent.
last, they're dead last in scoring margin to FBS. They had David Bakhtiari and they had Daniel Munyer on that offensive line.
That's an outlier. That's an outlier.
That's
The offensive line is what
crazy.
matters. And just to talk about it, right? I think your projected starters, you have Tyler Brown, who knows where he's going to play, tackle or guard. We don't know at this point. He's playing both positions in practice. Jordan Seaton is going to be another guy in that 5. He's definitely going to be a tackle. Hank Zelinskis, Justin Mayers, Khalil Benson are probably going to be your starters in that line. But I think a big difference this year is you have solid depth on the offensive line. And then you also bring in, how many new starters is that? 4? 4 new starters? Question mark? Hank, the only
only
returner?
Zelinskis. Yeah, only
Yeah.
Zelinskis came back, and even he was like a true freshman last year.
He's small, and I think he's supposed to be our starting center.
He
And
put
he
on
is
weight
small.
though. I think they might all be.
I don't think he's 300 pounds. Like,
I was going to say, like, most of our offensive linemen are north of 300 pounds. Go ahead.
And
And
it's a huge improvement from what it was. But if I remember, I mean, I'd be surprised if he got over 300, if he's tipping the scales over 300. But, I think he is, like, the sky's the limit, right? Like, the talent is there. He's young, and it's hard, like, when you're that young to keep that kind of weight on. But I do worry, like, right in the middle there, at center, that's an area where you might be able to get bailed out a little bit, but like, Jordan Seaton's going to have to just prove it, right? And he has the talent.
That's my biggest worry.
And he has the talent.
Struggle.
He's going to get there, but he's 19 years
struggles.
old. He's 19
true
years
freshman.
old.
Y'all, you remember Caden Proctor with Alabama last year? He was hyped. He was I believe he was one of the top recruits, period, in the country, and he was awful. And Alabama just about.
But he got it together towards the end of the year. But he struggled in the year.
That's what happens. Though. But it's going to happen.
We mentioned the practice. Tajay McCoy getting 4 sacks. I think 2 of those were on Jordan Seaton, if I remember correctly. So there are definitely big question marks with Jordan Seaton.
And I
Well,
think
I mean, like he's still going to be
they're-
a stud. Like,
right,
yes,
eventually.
let me back up. There's question marks with him going into this season because he's a freshman. Every freshman's going to struggle. There's going to be growing pains, but he's going to be an NFL guy. He's going to be an absolute stud when he's a junior, even probably a sophomore. He's going to be a stud. So don't get me wrong. I love that Jordan Seaton's on this team. He seems like a good kid, and he seems like he's working hard. But
just give me bad.
tackles,
Just give me bad.
not awful.
I just don't need
above awful?
historic. I just don't need historically bad, right? Because how are you dead last in rushing yards and in sacks given up? Like you're supposed to at least be good at one or the other, right? Not both at the same time. And we talked about this before, but it's also very telling that there's the most continuity on the offensive line of any position group under Coach Prime compared to under Carl Durrell. We brought a lot of the same guys over. Van Wells came back. Jared Lichtenhand came back. There's a couple other guys who I'm not thinking who aren't coming to mind, but that was like the most continuity that we had, and they were terrible in 2022. Like unbelievably bad in 2022. Everyone thought that Van Wells was like had a lot of potential. Lichtenhand has the size. He's 6'10", and they came in, and whatever Bill O'Boyle did or didn't do, it didn't work. It was a disaster.
And maybe part of it's coaching. Who knows?
But I have no doubt. So Bill O'Boyle came from Kent State. Kent State was also a disaster last year too. But when you look at what Sean Lewis was running there, and I remember we did go into depth on this. It was kind of like a gimmicky type offense, right? So you have undersized guys. You know that you're not going to out talent the other teams, but you're playing at the lower G5 level. It's not even like the higher G5 that you say. It was like a lower G5 level, and you can run some weird, blocking schemes where you're just like trying to poke random holes just by like moving things around. It just doesn't work when you're flat out dominated on like there's a massive size differential, right? And so do I know the science of it that well? No, I don't know the science of blocking or anything like that. But at the same time, we could see that something was very, very nefarious with whatever was going on last year. So just please give me bad. Like bad is fine. If they're good, I'm booking my ticket to the I almost said Pac-12 Big 12 championship game now.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to talk a little bit more about the O-line and just the guys individually. I think the best guy in your O-line has got to be Khalil Benson. Seems like he's just a different animal out in the practice field. It seems like he just wants to hurt everyone as he goes out there. And then off the practice field, he's just a great guy. So I'm actually pretty comfortable with that tackle position, or if he's in guard. I don't even know now because Tyler Brown's rotating on the outside. I'm also interested to see how Tyler Brown does. I think everyone thinks that he's going to be really solid because everyone loves Tyler Brown. There's nothing to hate about Tyler Brown. He's a great guy, but he's coming from Jackson State and he hasn't played football in a year in a real game. Like you look at the guys that came from Jackson, and other than Travis and Shador, they had some growing pains. Camson and Craig, it took him a little bit to get going. Once he did, he was a stud. Jeremiah Brown didn't get a ton of playing time last year, but we're seeing he's really making a lot of effort in summer camp, and he might get some good amount of playing time this year. So I'm interested to see how Tyler Brown does. He's a number one fan favorite for CU fans, so we're all cheering for him. But who knows? That's another question mark for me. In addition to Zelinska, Seaton, and maybe Justin Mayers, I don't know.
And I think Tyler Johnson probably deserves some flowers too. I think he's going to be a plug and play kind of guy. He's got the size, he's got the experience. We talked about this before. I played O-line in high school, or probably, I played a little bit of O-line in high school, but the chemistry really, really matters. And I think people say that, but they don't understand like how much that is meant, because when you're on the O-line, like you got to be able to trust the guys next to you as far as blocking assignments go. And that the team last year, I mean, you just watch it. And we talked about this last week. They just quit. Like Shador's getting, borderline assaulted out there, and they're walking off without picking him up. Like that doesn't fly in high school. I can't believe that was allowed last year. Like I think if I was the O-line coach, I would have resigned immediately. Like, and so you have to have that pride, and you have to have guys that like can trust each other. And this team has had more time to do that. And we talked about it last year. We knew that was going to be a problem. And I think like you've got these experienced guys that are coming in, these plug and play transfers. I do think, Jordan Seaton's probably gonna have a rough start. I think people that don't understand are gonna be on Twitter making comments that they don't mean, because like Sreyes said, like, it is just so hard to get in and immediately play at that level, especially at tackle, right? Like, tackle is, you are on an island, you are by yourself probably 70% of the time. Guard and center, you can kind of help each other out, but he's gonna have to just out there dominate against these guys who are, in some cases, legitimately 5 years older than him. So I'm excited to see, but some of these plug and play guys, I think, deserve some flowers, and we're going to have depth, way better depth at the O-line. I can't remember the kid who transferred from UConn. But I think he's going to be a stud. Yeah. Yukari Walker. Yeah. Like, legitimately, I would, it doesn't look like he's going to start. I'd be pretty surprised at this point if he does, but like, that's a guy that I think is better than basically anyone that was on our O-line last year, and he's going to be a reserve for us, or it looks like it. So, having that kind of experience really matters. Having that trust, having a change in philosophy, I think, really matters. And like Sreyes said, you don't have to be the best O-line in the Big 12. You don't have to be the best O-line in college football. You have to be okay. You have to not let Shedeur get murdered in cold blood behind you and not care. Like, that's the bar. And if they're any better than that or have any pride, that should not happen this year. I do think our tight ends are going to do a better job of blocking. I think that'll help relieve a little bit of pressure. But the bar is in hell, and all you have to do is, like, even remotely improve from there, and this team's going to be lethal on offense. It's going to be unstoppable, because the running game's going to get to break out, and we're not going to be making these desperation plays. And oh my God, is there talent everywhere? So. Sorry to get on my soapbox, but like, I think people that never played O-line need to realize that, like, the chemistry really, really matters. And that just didn't have time to develop, in my opinion. Last year didn't seem to really develop. And like you said, maybe that's a coaching problem. Maybe that's a time problem. Maybe that's a transfer problem. Maybe that's a talent problem. Probably a mix of all of the above.
They must not have had much chemistry to begin with, since a lot of those guys were on the 2022 team. Yeah, it's just a disaster.
And just no pride. Like, I mean,
no pride. Yeah, we don't need to get into it.
So anyway, we'll let it go. But yeah, we'll move on now. So essentially, kind of the idea was what O-line, worst position groups, special teams certainly. But we'll see. It seems like everywhere's going to be a little bit improved. But let's each pick a breakout surprise player. I call me. Maybe you guys can call this cheating. You can call it.
Don't pick my guy.
Don't pick my guy.
Now I'm a little, I don't think I'm going to pick your guy. So my guy is Dallin Hayden out of Ohio State, the running back transfer. And here's why.
That's not cheating. That's a good pick.
I just didn't know if that was one of your guys, but
no, we're good.
So for people who don't know, I went to grad school at Penn State. I'm also a Penn State fan. It's my Big Ten team. And because of that, I know a lot of people who are Ohio State fans. And literally minutes after Hayden announced that he was transferring, I got texts from two different Ohio State fans who texted me and said, he's going to be a stud. He's awesome. People do not realize what you just got. And that really got me excited. But just watching the film, I think, everyone's talking about how, we lost Dylan Edwards. Dylan Edwards, very talented, but we talked about this last year, very one-dimensional, right? He's a speed demon, but was actually kind of, in my opinion, disappointing in the passing game, and could not be a power running back. Will never be a power running back. That's just not who he is, right? Dallin Hayden is a every down back that is going to really, really benefit this. And the running back room as a whole, I don't, on average, should they get all that much better? I don't know. But I think Dallin Hayden is a guy that's going to work well in this offense. I think he's a guy that people don't realize how important that transfer was. And when even Ohio State fans are saying that one hurt, like, that's when like, you've got a guy coming in there. And I think he's running under the radar. People know him. People know that he's the Charlie. Charlie, obviously, great story. I'm cheering for him. He's not going to be the primary guy, I don't think. I mean, I really do think.
Who do you think is going to start week one?
I think it's got to be Hayden. Like, do you
think it's a smoke screen that Charlie's number one on the depth chart right now?
I don't know. I mean, Charlie's earned it, right? Like, he's lunch pail kid. He went out, earned his scholarship. I really think this will be a running back by committee sort of situation. But as far as D1 level, like guys I could see going to the next level. I love Charlie. I hope he does. But like, Hayden's the guy that I think has that potential. And I think Hayden's the guy that you have to respect. And all you need to do is take a little bit of pressure off the passing game. and have a legitimate running threat, which we didn't have last year, really. I mean, like, Charlie was there, it was great, but like, and that is largely on the O-line, right? But if you can take some pressure off the passing game, and they have to respect you with their schemes, they have to respect you with not blitzing on every play, they're not making you run for your life, you just make your passing game that much better, and that can get really scary. And so I think that's going to be the guy who week 3 people are going to be like, oh, of course we knew this. But right now I don't think people realize how big of an impact transfer he's going to be.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick.
So if you're right, that's going to be big. Sorry,
yeah, that will be no, for sure. For me, the guy who I really want to see succeed and who I will believe succeed, maybe not a true breakout since he had success at his last stop, is BJ Green, mechanical engineer, right? Got to give him a shout out. So that dude is an animal. He's an absolute animal. I loved watching one of the interviews that they did with him. So I know that there's a perception about Colorado and the playing for clicks and all of that stuff. And I will say I have a ton of respect for all of those guys in general. I have no problem with the playing, with the social media push and all of that the teams put together. But BJ Green, when they actually did talk to him, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Bucky, who was like, "So why are you so quiet?" And he's like, "I'm just locked in. I'm ready to go. Like, I just want to get it. I'm here because I'm trying to eat. Yeah, I just want to eat."
A true engineer.
I love it. That's what I even retweeted it from the account. I'm like, that's an engineer right there. If I've ever seen an engineer, that's what they act like. So I love it. That's going to be a huge difference maker. If we get good pass rush, I expect it to. Not just with him, but all the other guys.
He was a walk-on at ASU, right?
At the beginning, he was, but then by the end of his career, he was on, I think, second, third team Pac-12, all Pac-12.
Yeah,
he was
one of the teams. I'm not sure,
and that's for an ASU team, ASU program that was in the, down the tubes. They were really struggling at the time, so I'm excited for that. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll keep shouting out his degree because that's impressive too. I don't know if y'all listeners, I don't know if y'all are engineers, but the fact that someone is on the football team at a high leverage position group like that, where you're not just showing up, at the end of practice to kick a couple field goals or something weird like that, right?
Okay, rude. Kickers are people too.
The reason why I said that is because the other engineer I thought of was the guy who made the kick against Oklahoma back in 2007. Kevin Eberhardt. But this guy, that's a special level of impressive. Like if you have, and he said he had over 3.0 too. ASU is a pretty good mechanical engineering school too. I've worked with a number of people that went there over the years. So impressive. He's a very impressive kid. I'm rooting for him.
All right, Jake, you want to go?
Just really quickly, he also led ASU in sacks last season, which is impressive purely just because he was a true freshman, which, I mean, and I don't, Sreyes,
I don't think he was a true freshman. I think he has 1 year of eligibility left.
Or when he was a true freshman, he led them in sacks.
Gotcha.
Dan, he is older than I thought. But more importantly, I cannot believe you missed the chance to dunk on Arizona State academics, and we could have immediately put it in the front of the podcast, and then your Twitter mentions would have been blown up by all of the 15 Arizona State kids intelligent enough to know how to use Twitter. But anyway, lost opportunity.
I'm telling you my experiences, right? I mean, I've had good experiences with, they're pretty smart. It's a good program for engineering. Most engineering programs are good, guys. Gotta say, pretty good.
All right, moving on. I can't contribute much because I'm not an engineering major, but my pick, I texted you guys this pick today, and I'm going to say the pick. Breakout player, Dre'Lon Miller. Freshman. He was a 4-star recruit, but he was rated 95 on 247 Sports, which is a borderline 5-star. This guy is a stud. He also won the Heisman in my college football league. Why? Because he's really fast. So I can hit him on streaks. But Dre'Lon Miller is going to be an absolute athlete for this team. I'm going to read for you guys really quick a thing from 247 Sports. This is Gabe Brooks, a scouting analyst. He says, devastating offensive weapon who makes plays for his high school team at receiver, running back, and Wildcat QB, accompanied by ample defensive snaps and return game experience with the physical tools, instincts, tenacity, and football IQ. He also averaged 17.5 points in basketball in high school. This kid is an absolute athlete, absolute stud. I think you could see him in the pass game. You're going to see him on screens. You're going to see him on the run game. It'll
So he's
be
Debo Samuel.
I was gonna say
exactly.
Laviska Shenault, but
Or Dylan Edwards, right? Kind of that Dylan
Wow.
Edwards plug and play there.
And I'm just
So,
gonna. I mean, the basketball team is not necessarily set at talent right now, so maybe he can become a dual
very
sport
true.
athlete. But
Very
and we'll
true.
talk about that later. After football season's over. But anyway,
Never
definitely
took
some
my
room for
guy.
improvement there. So
Yeah. And quick shout out to Cam Michael. I think he's going to be a stud too. I'm just going to go with the dark horse with Draylon Miller. Cam Michael is actually officially the fastest player in the team. Some well-off video posted the 40 times, and Cam Michael was number one. So those two wide receivers, we're stacked wide receiver now. Just imagine it in a couple of years. It's going to be more stacked. So
we
that's
just
my
gotta
pick.
get Juju now.
Exactly.
Gotta get Juju thrown to him.
we have to go one
Exactly.
full podcast without mentioning Juju, and then he will commit. I'm 100%.
Which, now that we're on the topic, I hear there's a quiet confidence with the Buffs still with Juju. That's actually from DNVR. That's not me hearing it. So I think we can remain cautiously optimistic.
Stay
All right,
optimistic.
Topher, what you got? Topher, what you got?
Okay. I think my breakout player is going to be Trevor Woods.
Whoa!
Whoa.
I thought
I
I
love
would
that
bet a
pick.
lot of money on a kicker or long
Yeah,
snapper.
I
Here's
like
my
that
thing.
pick.
Trevor Woods, we've seen him play. He has great instinct at safety, and he's a sure tackler. He's now put on some weight, and I think that was what was holding him back when he moved to linebacker last year. So we have someone that has the IQ, that has the coverage ability that Nate Landman never really flashed greatness of, with a tackler that's pretty sure-handed. Not quite as sure-handed as Nate Landman, obviously, but I think Trevor Woods is geared to have a very, very good season. So I will even say I wouldn't be surprised if Trevor Woods was our leading tackler by the end of the season.
Yeah, I like that pick, but that could also go either way too. There's a lot of competition in that linebacker room between him, Bentley,
Mhm.
Nakai Hill Green, I think's in the conversation to be a starter. And who am Jeremiah Brown. He's also looked really
Oh,
good.
yeah.
So I could see that going any way. But yeah, I'm a big Trevor Wood fan. I like that.
That'd be great. How awesome would it be to see him break out and have a huge season and get like Big 12 honors for something after sticking it out through the whole Carl Durrell era? And frankly, like having some of the more memorable moments under the Carl Durrell era with some of his plays, like that big play against Cal. Oh man, that was epic. Like where basically Cal guy had a wide open touchdown in overtime, and he just went over there and like swatted it out of his hands as he was just like cruising into the end zone. That was amazing.
Legendary.
I would love
Legendary.
to see Trevor. Man, I would love to see Trevor Woods succeed. That'd be
I,
such a
I
great.
want him. I think as far as players that I don't know will get drafted that I want to be drafted, he's easily number one for me. Just because like he went through it and like did it the right way, and I don't know, like coming from safety, Nate Landman did not pass cover at all and just got a huge contract, or, pretty good contract with the Falcons. So, you can do it. Like, I really think, it can happen.
You got a
but-
nose for the football, right? That's the key. There's some guys
Yeah.
who just have a nose for the football. They just find it and just
Make plays.
rack up
And,
hundreds of tackles.
So we did our predictions last week as far as wins, losses. Somehow our average got woefully inflated due to Jake did admit that he's not, in fact, an engineering student. But we
He's
did
an
want to
accountant,
talk.
though. You're supposed to know Excel, dude.
Yeah. We did want to talk about what is an actual like successful, like what is the season that you would go at the end of the season and go, you know what, that is what I was hoping for. Not necessarily your dream. We see it on Twitter all the time. Some of the fans that are like, it's 16-0 until proven otherwise. I think this podcast, there's lots of podcasts out there. If you want to go find rah people that are 16-0 kind of guys, we are not that podcast. So, please still give us a follow on YouTube. We're trying to build that up, by the way, quick shout out, but a shameless shout out. But, I think we're more realistic than most. At least I like to give us credit for that. So for you guys, what is a successful season start to look like? And I'll have Jake go first on this one, because Jake is one of those guys who is a perpetual optimist until he's not. So I'm curious, when would you sit back in your chair and say, you know what, that was a successful season at the University of Colorado Boulder?
Man, I need more time to marinate on this. Yeah, this question came up because Altitude Sports was talking about is will this team make a bowl? Which I think is a joke conversation. This team is definitely going to win 6 games. I need to marinate on this. Let's see. My head jumped bowl game, but no, I want more than that. We have the best quarterback in college football. We have the best wide receiver in college football, the best DB in college football, and we have a lot of talent on our defense, on our wide receiver groups. Like we just talked about it. For me, where I would be satisfied. Oh, and I think I still want more, but I'm gonna say 7 wins and a bowl game win, or 8 wins and no bowl game win. And I'm still iffy on. I'm curious what you guys have to say, but that's kind of where my first gut reaction is. I think they need to win more than 6 games, like even 6 games in a bowl. I don't know if I might be. I don't know. It's hard, right? I don't think I'd be that happy, even though it's CU's first bowl victory in 20 years, roughly.
Literally 20 years. Last one was in 2004.
Yeah. So you're down in execution.
Jeez. Oh my God, that
pleased
hurts.
with that result. I think the Denver media would be shocked, which is just a joke. I think with how good this team is and with your position groups being phenomenal, you need to shoot for about 8 wins, and that can include a bowl game.
So I'll take kind of the other side here, but I'll say this is just my own personal expectation. I would be, and I predicted 7 wins last week, so take that for what it is. I would be ecstatic with a bowl game and a bowl win, right? I'd say making it to a bowl game is the floor, and here's the reason. Despite the fact that we're talking about all the talent, I agree. We had a lot of talent last year too. It's the question marks with the trenches, and it takes a while. We've learned and seen now, and all the haters from last year are probably right about this. Now that we've had time to marinate on and understand, it takes a while to rebuild the trenches from nothing. And we saw last year that we kept a lot of those same guys. Not a lot of the same, but we kept some of those same guys, and they really floundered. They didn't get better. They got worse. It was an embarrassingly bad offensive line, and the defensive line wasn't much better, right? The amount of times where they just got ran over by the opposition, and just like I said, like we were talking about the 99-yard drive, where just feed the ball. Utah playing their fourth or fifth string quarterback who's a wide receiver and not, I think, throwing the ball twice in the whole game and just running it down her throat. Like that type of stuff, it scares me. And I think that a program that's rebuilding needs to eventually have really, really, really good depth year in, year out at that position. And I have no doubt that we'll get there. Just with me right now, as far as me setting a floor for what I really am saying is a successful season, I'm handicapping us now because last year my 8-win prediction was really predicated on competent offensive line performance. And the whole offseason last year, we were thinking like this team had an opportunity to really shock people because of the talent turnover. No one had ever turned over a roster to that extent. And we all saw the pieces. There's a lot of former highly recruited players on that team, and a lot of them continue to have quite a bit of talent. Some of them are coming back. But the lack of trench performance, lack of trench depth, all of the above kneecapped us, like absolutely kneecapped us last year in every regard, and was the difference probably between 8 or 9-win team and a 4-win team, that had some really devastating losses, like namely that Stanford loss, right? Like that just can't happen. And that type of game wouldn't happen if you have stability at those really critical interior positions. So I would be happy just to make it to a bowl game. I think that's successful in my book, and it sets us up well as long as we retool, like we retain some of this talent that we have that is going to come back, because not all of it. Everyone thinks, oh, it's just 100% mercenaries who are all fifth-year seniors. That's not the case, right? We have a lot of guys that had multiple years of eligibility left. We have a lot of skill position talent. If we don't end up with the high school quarterback recruit that we're going for, there's a transfer portal. And Prime has shown that he can really find those skill position players in the transfer portal. And hopefully some of these younger offensive linemen like the Seatons and the other players of that nature have time to develop and continue the sustainable program into the future. And then we look at like even more competitive and championship type seasons, before long. Not saying it can't happen this year, but I'm not gonna do it to myself where I set the bar that high right now. I would just, we've been beaten down, guys. It's been a rough road since Joel Klatt was here, basically, literally. Actually, Joel Klatt was the guy who won our last bowl game 20 years ago. So I'll take what we can get, man. And
that should be our intro right there, actually, because that is an insane stat. Like, that is an insane, actually Looney Tunes stat.
It was against UTEP too. It's not like we played in some big bowl game. It was just like some random bowl game, like I don't even remember what it was. It was like the Champ Sports Bowl or something like that. I honestly don't even Houston Bowl. I think it was the Houston Bowl, and we played UTEP. Like, come on, this is not even like Aaron Jones UTEP. This is just UTEP. So, oh wait, now UTEP's going to be interventions. Great.
All right, Toph, what do you got?
I think we have to have 8 wins, and I think we have to finish in the top 25.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
After Sreyes is like, I don't
think a college football playoff berth. A lot of things would have to bounce right for us to do that. But I do think this team is talented enough to finish the top 25. So 25-13, where we finish up, is what I'd expect. And I'm expecting a bowl win with that too, right? Like, I want to exude the confidence that Coach Prime is exuding. And when I look at the talent that we have, and I look at how we've constructed ourselves, and we look at the coaching and the clips that we see, I really see a top 25 finishing team when I look at this Buffs team.
I'd be so pumped. That'd be
yeah,
the best.
yeah. I hope you're right. So I have a few things that I think I think you can look at wins and losses. For me, I will go to any bowl game. I will go to the Idaho Potato Bowl. I will go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I will go to the Cheez-It Bowl. I don't care where it is. I want to go to a bowl game, and I want to win at a bowl game. And I can't wait to see the energy that Colorado will bring at a bowl game, because these fans are so hungry, and that was satiated a little bit in 2016, and 2020 was kind of a weird year, so we'll just kind of delete that from our brains. But I want to go, and I want.
Carl Durrell took us to a bowl.
Yeah, I mean, after winning like 4 games, by the way, because of the weird season. But I think there's a few things that I want to see this team do. The first thing I want to see this team do is this team, in my opinion, really fell off. I mean, not my opinion. Anyone would say this after that Oregon game, when we got really punched in the mouth and got humbled, and that team, I don't want to say they quit, but at that point, like the magic was gone, right? And so I think, just if we're being honest, looking at this schedule, and I don't know where it is, and I pray to God it's not North Dakota State or Nebraska, but somewhere there's going to be a loss that hurts, and it's going to be a gut punch. And I want to see this team rebound from it and keep their swagger and keep moving. And I think that comes down to culture. I think that comes down to coaching. I think that comes down to the guys that you have in the locker room. And I know.
Chase, what is culture? Can you define that for me?
What do you mean?
What is
culture?
Oh
my God.
Is that one of these bits? I don't know.
It's a Coach Prime joke.
What is culture?
But I, on a serious note, like I think that team last year got punched in the mouth, and they just were not able to recover. And like that team, a team that gets punched in the mouth should never lose that Stanford game, right? Like, you should be able to come back and fight through adversity and find a way to win. And I hope this team has that. And I think this team has the tools to have that. And now I'm realizing how bad it is that I missed that what is culture joke, but
bolster.
So
that's
one of the big
roster.
Things. That's one of the big things for me. I want to see us competing for the Big 12 in week 8. So come week 8, I want us to still be in the race for the Big 12. We talked about it last week. Our schedule, other than Texas Tech, which is a goofy goober clown show school, and I'll say it again because they're all up in our Twitter mentions, but we have Cincinnati, Texas Tech. Those should be wins. I don't care what the Texas Tech fans say, but Utah, at Kansas, Oklahoma State. We have Arizona and Kansas State, right? If we can still be competitive in that area, I'm not saying we're going to win the Big 12. Big 12 is a really good conference this year. There's a lot of teams, and getting into that championship game is going to be really hard, even for a roster as talented as ours. But if we're still competitive, even if we don't get there, I would be pretty happy with our team. But the number one thing for me after this season, and this is kind of cheating, this is why I went last, is I want to see a team where one, Coach Prime stays at the end of the season, and a team that can survive life after Travis and Shador leaves, and Shiloh, but that will be a successful season. If the University of Colorado Boulder still has momentum and they're looking to make something, and I'd love to see Coach Prime get a Brinks truck backed up to his front yard and sign a new contract. But, I want to see that, like, we're going to keep that, the keys have been passed on and that we're going to be okay. And I think that is something that at the end of the season, we'll kind of have an idea one way or another, and things move fast these days. So, I want to see us survive life, after this season. But, I really do. I expect, and by the way, the over under is 5.5. And we talked about this last week, but we're predicting between 6-8 wins. That is still way above what Vegas is expecting. We're going to surprise a lot of people if we go win 6 games this year, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and you all should make a lot of money too, because I think that is a free bet.
The only reasons at 5.5 is because Nebraska fans are hammering the under and just holding it at 5.5.
It's because bigots and people that hate Coach Prime are betting that line down. They are. It's just the truth of the matter.
It's free money.
The line has moved.
Yeah.
The line has moved significantly, right? Like, we know why that's happening, and so I think that is kind of the line. I think there's a lot that can happen with this team, but that for me, I think there's a lot of things I want to see, and I think a lot of it is seeing that, like, we're moving in the right direction as a program, because after so many years of being bad, what I cannot stomach is the idea of us having an okay to good year and then starting from scratch again. So that's kind of my, what would leave me happy going into the off season, because I hate to break it to you guys, the more I think about it, the more I think our basketball season is going to be atrocious. So that for me is what a successful season looks like. And I think Jake's gonna have to drop off, but that's okay, because our X's and O's guy now, Topher, if you stuck around waiting for it, Topher's on a good amount of film review. North Dakota State coming up, and we're gonna work with we've got a little bit of a flyer to publish, but we'll talk about that more in our next episode. But Topher, what are you seeing with this North Dakota State team? It's a talented team. You said they're not as good as they used to be. I think people are probably generally in agreement with that. They're still a pretty good football team.
They are an example of a program that you build from the bottom up, right? They get boys in from when they graduate high school, and they keep them for 4 years, and they develop for 4 years. You play in their system, you understand their system, you execute their system, and they go win football games. All right. It's very impressive what they built. But football is an evolving game, right? Cracks are starting to show in the system, and they have to evolve. And I think some of their losses last year came from that evolution, and where people were starting to expose them a little bit. So the thing that North Dakota State is most famous for is their run game. It is their bread and butter. Their offensive line are big, they're athletic, and they are fast, and they will push people around. But the thing they execute very, very well is they execute this pin and pull action. So they will come out in like 30 personnel, which means like 3 tight ends, no running backs, and 2 wide receivers. And then what they will do is they'll run a pin and pull action where the center and the tackle are pulling outside to kick out the ends, and then the tight end and the guard are pushing down on the nose guard and defensive tackle. What this does is it creates very favorable angles for the offensive line to be able to have leverage. So even if they're not as big, not as strong, because they have those angles on you, they're able to create gaps. This also creates a numbers issue if our defense isn't flowing right or calling the strength of the formation correctly. So when they played South Dakota was woefully unprepared for this look, and they would try to collapse down the end following the tight end, leaving massive holes on the end where a center would kick out a quarter, and then he was gone for 70 yards, right? We can't have mismatches like that. And if we do not have our assignment-based football to account for those pulling guards, we're going to have a long day in the trenches. Number 2, this guy's a super senior. It's going to be like his 5th year because of COVID or whatever, playing quarterback for him. He has pretty okay passing stats. They're just not a passing team. They run play action. He'll draw linebackers in. He's good at making that read, and then he's quick, and he'll get it there. But if he's forced to just be a straight drop back, read the defense, find the right guy, he's not that guy.
That's definitely a change from the North Dakota State that we're used to seeing, because they're one of the few schools, and albeit two of these guys are backups and they don't play that much, but they have 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. That's unusual for any school, but for a FCS school in particular. I mean, so Easton Stick played a bunch with the Chargers last year. Trey Lance was a first-round draft pick. And then Carson Wentz, we know that he's had an up and down career, but they got 3 guys in the league. So the fact that they're not replenishing that talent pool with more guys that you're anticipating are going to be high level performers to the point where they're playing at the next level on Sundays. That's got to be a clear cut sign that they're not what they once were.
Yeah.
Now looking at the primer that we have that we'll probably try to publish, it looks like they only lost 2 starters this year, which is impressive with a team where you would think that in the new model of college football, right, that North Dakota State is the prime example of go in there, develop, and then transfer into a bigger program. That's not really what's happening here. So, I mean, you have to give them some flowers as far as that's concerned. These are guys that want to win at North Dakota State. They're bought in on the program, even after some coaching changes, which was not really, something that happened at North Dakota State for a long time.
Yeah, if your goal is to get to the next level, to the NFL, they've proven that even though
you can do it,
FCS level, you can 100% do it.
Absolutely.
And then they've put out so many coaches that have gone on to success at the FBS level, right? Craig Ball, he coached there, and he had a lot of success at Wyoming. Chris Kleeman, who is at Kansas State, and we'll see his team this year. He came from North Dakota State. So that's a tried and true proven program. But yeah, we'll definitely see that. That's a good catch, Topher, that they're maybe not a traditional passing team anymore.
Definitely
they have a Taysom Hill type guy, right? With
so
their backup quarterback,
number 9,
Cole Payton, I think.
Yeah. If he's in, they are running they're running that pin and pull action one way or the other, and he's gonna go through there. And if we don't have the numbers for it, he's gonna run for 1.5 billion yards. All right, he is quick, he is big. And for his size, he can move. And I haven't seen him throw. I don't even know if he can throw. I think he's just kind of like a tight end wildcat kind of guy for him. I watched 3 games that they played, right? They were in a back and forth battle with Montana State, and they won by blocking an extra point in overtime. So,
wow.
Also that kicker didn't get the ball up. So he sucks.
That's all you care about.
Right? Like, I mean, the guy behind the line was, 6'8", and he jumped up and tipped it. But like, if he's behind the line, there's no chance anyone should touch it. Anyways, that's one hell of a play. They are a gritty team. And if they have a chance, they will stick in it. And the way South Dakota State beat them is they shifted their defense to account for that pin and pull action. And then they had guys trying to shoot the gaps that they were pulling through. So if that linebacker saw that center pulling, he was shooting the gap to try and get into the backfield, make them bounce out or cut back. So they didn't have those numbers advantage for the power runs.
Topher, in your opinion, how much of this is we have to make sure that we're doing our film review. They're not going to reinvent the wheel, obviously. Versus, is this a game where you think we can just beat them on pure talent alone, or is this one where we're really going to have our X's and O's?
We're going to have our X's. Basically, I think playing North Dakota State is more similar to playing someone like Air Force than people might realize, right?
Like cringe.
A 30 personnel, 3 tight end personnel. Are you kidding me? A 31 personnel. They also have a 40 where they have 3 running backs and 0 tight ends. So sorry, it's like a 13 or 30 personnel where they load up on tight ends or load up on running backs. They have fakes every single time. They have QB reads because as much as he's not a passer, he can still run the football, right? Number 9's just a runner, but Cam Miller, he can run the football. He'll run. He has that QB read, and if you suck in, he'll make you pay right away. So we need to play very much assignment-based football. You have to be disciplined. You have to have someone that accounts for the running back, because if he does that read and you don't have anyone account for the running back, he'll whip it out there, and then he's got nothing but room ahead of him. If you get sucked in too much on the play action, you're going to get beat over the top on those long pass plays. So our DBs have to be disciplined and know that they're probably not going to get a lot of action. But if they get sucked in, we're going to look stupid, right? And we have to get on them early, and then we have to just take the hope out of them, right? We have to beat them every single play, hit them in the mouth early, and then not give them a single lick of hope. Because if there's hope, they will fight back.
Yeah.
That's what I got for the preview from North Dakota State.
Yeah,
That
we
might
might.
be a really good team to play for our linebackers to get them primed for the season, especially heading into Lincoln the week after. Not that they should be looking ahead because this is going to be a tough enough game. They're on the national stage. Everyone wants to see us lose and have egg on her face. Everyone's expecting us to lose. I think that's a pretty trendy upset pick, even though I just called it an upset. But it's a pretty trendy pick to take North Dakota State over us just because of their history with beating FBS teams. Funny enough, I keep comparing the trajectory that we're on to Arizona. The last FBS team to beat them was Arizona in 2021, but that was the Arizona team before Arizona, or was it 2021 or 2022? It was recently in the last couple of years. But that was Arizona team before they broke out with Fifita, and McMillan may have been on that team, but Fifita was not. So if we're comparing ourselves to that, it might be a good opportunity for us to get off to a good start here and start this era on a good note with our Big 12 conference return.
And all right, we'll each do our predictions. It's too bad Jake hopped off because I'm sure he normally is good for like a 75-3 pick for the Buffs. So I'll just go ahead and for Jake, I'll say 75-3. He didn't actually tell me what he wanted, but it seems like something he would pick. If I remember, at least as of a couple days ago, the line on this is -8 for Colorado, and surprise or maybe surprise. It was surprising to me. A lot of the big money is on Colorado, which is always a good sign, right? When the actual money, not the people just running their mouths on Twitter, but when the money is flowing on a team, makes me think that we're probably doing all right. Line's moved a little bit. I think it's moved all the way between -6.5 all the way to -8.5. My guess on the betting line is that it will move to somewhere around -9.5 before kickoff. I actually think it's going to move more in favor of, or more against Colorado. So if you want to hit that, I would probably lock that in as soon as possible. Very quickly, I'll do my prediction. I think this is going to be one of those games where I could just see it. We're gonna have a bad turnover early in the game. I've talked ad nauseum about how much I hate this game, but I think this is a game where North Dakota State might hop on us. I think it's possible we might be losing at the end of the first quarter. I think we're just too much for them to keep up with, especially in Boulder. Over time, I think the better team will prevail. I've got this one somewhere around, I'm going to call it 42-27. I think North Dakota State's going to scare us a little bit, but I think in the long run, I think we just have the talent advantage where we're going to get it done. And I think this is a must win in Boulder. I think the team is not going to overlook this opponent. I think they understand what they're walking into. And so, I feel pretty good about this one, even if it is on a Thursday night in prime time on ESPN against a horrible opponent. All those things going against us, I still think we get the job done.
Yeah. I think the big difference between the way I'd predict this now versus years past is the faith in our offense. Although that could be derailed pretty quickly if it turns out our offensive line is also still historically bad. If they're not, which I'm saying that they're not at this point, and that's what I make my prediction on, then I think we're going to put up points just because we've just so much relentless talent on offense. As long as they're doing their job, we should have open receivers, and we have a great quarterback to get those open receivers the ball. And hopefully we can even keep them honest with some good rushing attack from Hayden and from Offerdahl. So I do think that we're going to put up some points, and I think, North Dakota State is scary. They're as scary as we'd imagine. But based on that preview that Topher had for us here, I think it's a good opportunity for our defensive line to show their chops early in the season, and for our linebackers to get used to playing this style of football, which I'm sure we'll see a lot of in the Big 12. So I'll take 35-21 Buffs opening the season.
I like it. I like it a lot. I made a bet with a teacher at the high school I coach at that the Buffs would win by 28. So give me 38-10. I think Trevor Woods.
Vegas will give you a better line than that. You don't have to take those kinds of bets.
I understand, but this is more about pride because he was wearing a USC polo and I just saw red and had to prove him wrong.
That's funny. Well, it's so funny that these old Pac-12 schools are still talking. even
Yeah.
though we're never gonna play well, maybe in the playoff, but there's no
Few and
schedule.
far between. Yeah.
We just had that same back and forth with an Oregon fan in our fantasy football group chat this year. They just like they get so mad. They get so mad because of all the attention that's come to the program, as though their program doesn't play for clicks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. But
My hot take for this game, by the way, I think we have 2 defensive touchdowns because I think our DB is that much better. Our DBs. I don't know if that's going to come in the form of a scoop and score. I will also be including kickoff returns and punt returns. But I really think we're going to have at least 1 pick six, if not 2. I think we're going to find turnovers in the late game because they're going to get desperate. And I think we're going to take advantage. And I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be a momentum game. I think it's going to be a swagger game. And I think they're going to be fired up, ready to go in Lincoln and Fort Collins. So with that being said, thank you everyone for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys could give us a follow on, on your favorite podcasting platforms, on X, on YouTube. I know we're beating it to death, but we're really trying to build up YouTube because we're allowed to do more things on YouTube if we get more subscribers. So if you can go on there, give us a subscription. It costs you nothing, really helps us out. And we'll be in touch. We're excited. We can't wait for football to be back. You better believe we'll be watching all day on Saturday, even though Colorado doesn't play until the Thursday after. And with that being said, go Buffs.
Go Buffs, baby.